Hey guys, I just wanted to say thank you for using my creator code whenever you purchase any Sims 4 DLC on the EA app or thesims.com. I receive a 5% commission each time you use my code, which means you're directly supporting me as a creator. I know there are a lot of codes floating around out there, so I am very grateful that you've chosen me to support in this way. Thank you so much. Hey guys, it is MissSimReno. If you are returning to the channel, welcome back. And if you're brand new, I am very excited that you decided to join me here today for another speed build. And if you are watching this build, just like many of my others, if you have been around the channel for some time now, you will know that this one is pre-recorded, or at least now you know it's pre-recorded, but you'll know why. It is pre-recorded because that means that I am currently on maternity leave because I've had my baby and I want to spend some time with them and acclimate to the fourth trimester, as it's often referred to. And I just don't want to have to worry about YouTube during that time. So I pre-recorded a bunch of builds and some gameplay stuff. Hopefully you're all enjoying my absolute tragedy of a 100 baby challenge start, because let me tell you, ooh, I almost quit the challenge. I didn't. I haven't quit yet, but I might. It's really, really hard, and it is, well, it's a challenge to be frank. But also you might notice, so number one, okay, let me get back on track here. So number one, I am working off of an image that I found on Pinterest. It was like this kind of like city, more so. I would assume it would belong in a city, or I would picture it being in a city-centric area of like Mount Como. But I found this image on Pinterest of a kind of like townhouse looking thing, and I thought it was perfect and simple, and I really wanted to give it a shot in The Sims. So I'll put that on screen for you now. But number two, one of the things that you might have noticed right off the bat is that I am using a different GShade preset. Yes, I'm giving it a test drive. This is the only pre-recorded build that I have done using this preset, so you're only going to see it once. But it is called Soul by Ertler, and I first saw it because if you all don't follow Gloomy Dahlia, who has since changed their name to I think it's Alani Plays. I'm going to put it on screen for you because I unfortunately did not prepare and put it up in front of me. But their builds are absolutely incredible, and they actually use this preset. They made some personal tweaks to it, just like I did. So this is not what the preset's going to look like by default if you were to toss it into your game. I did make some adjustments to some of the settings just to my liking. Like I definitely upped the what's it called, the MXAO settings to get that shadow effect that I really enjoy with a lot of the presets that I use. But I digress. That is how I found it. It's a beautiful preset even just as is, but it's wonderful to tweak presets to your preference, to your liking. And I wanted to give it a shot, so let me know what you think. It's definitely a lot softer. There's almost like a soft haze to the entire preset, and colors are not as saturated or vibrant. And I think it works so nicely for a build in Mount Como specifically. Like this look, whether it's architectural style, just the aesthetic of this build in particular, I just think it looks so, so pretty. But it did lead me to make a lot of different design decisions, I think, because the colors look different. I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing that happens when you use GShade or any kind of filter or anything like that. You might actually find that depending on the filter you're using, you're going to make different decisions on the swatches of objects that you choose because they look different in your game. So at the end of this build, what I did is I did the entire build itself, all the footage with this new preset, but I did make the screenshots at the end reflect my standard preset, which is Aries by Urban. So they're going to look a lot, and I mean a lot brighter and much more vibrant than the speed build footage actually looks right now. So just keep that in mind, but I definitely want to hear your thoughts on it. I'm a little bit undecided as to whether or not I am going to use it again in a build or something like that. I don't really know. Because it's so funny, when I was switching between the two presets, going back to Aries by Urban literally hurt my eyeballs because the contrast between this and that preset, it's so stark. Like, it hurt my eyes because it was so saturated. But after maybe 20 seconds, I was like, oh, I really love seeing the vibrance of all the colors. And then switching back to this, I'm like, why does everything look gray? Like, it's such a huge difference. So definitely let me know what you all think. But as you can see, we are working on the shape of the house. We're trying to figure out how I'm going to lay out the rest of the, I guess we'll call it yard space, like the rest of the lot. And I really, really liked it. I thought it was really cute. And as you can see, I also tried to replicate the colors in the actual reference image as well. So the roof, the roof is actually really red. And then the outside is just like this, like standard charcoal gray. I really liked the juxtaposition of those two colors. Did I use that word right? I don't know, maybe not. I thought they looked pretty together. How about that? That gets my point across. And now we're trying to work out the floor plan. So this ends up being a family home. It is for a family of 3 Sims, so 2 parents and a child is what I was thinking. But you could of course customize any and all rooms to your heart's desire, depending on how or if you want to use this build. And the first room that we do work on is actually the kitchen. And I gave it a shot. I tried at first to use all of these open cabinets from Snowy Escape. I like these cabinets, but I'm sorry, not cabinets, countertops, but there's no matching cabinets. I did pair them with these Jungle Adventure cabinets, which I believe I maintain. I think I even keep the countertops, but what I was struggling with, this is something I struggle with in general, is I always want to fill empty space. And these countertops are quite literally just empty space. Like, you can put so many things on the slots on the bottom, like underneath those countertops. And I did do that originally. Yeah, and I didn't keep it. That's what I thought. And I switched to these. I only did this build like 2 days ago. You think I would remember what the heck I did. But I temporarily switched to the country kitchen kit counters. And then I just decided, you know what, maybe I need to change up the color. Maybe I need to do that because it was looking very just soft brown woods. Like that was the color that I was going for. And I always use that color with the Snowy Escape things. So I lightened things up a lot. I went a little bit lighter than I would normally do. And I do like how it turned out. And red is actually a color that pops up a lot in this build. And I don't know why. Maybe, actually, no, I do know why. I think it was because of the roof. The roof was super red. And I figured that we had a fair amount of things where I could bring in red accents that would still kind of match this interior design style that I was going for. So in the kitchen, we also have a full-size kotatsu, which I was thrilled with being able to include. I did use the Snowy Escape countertops, but I paired them with the cabinets from Jungle Adventure. I think you could probably pair them with kind of those industrial looking cabinets that we have from base game. Those could probably work really nicely as well. If I was doing a more rustic, maybe like country setting build, I likely would have used those, but I wanted this to have kind of like a soft, rustic edge to it, but have some things look a little bit more contemporary or modernized, just because I set it in kind of a more city-centric area in Mount Como. Hopefully that makes sense. That was my logic, at least. If it doesn't make sense to you, I guess it doesn't really matter because that was my logic and it worked for me. But as you can see, I'm now cluttering up underneath these cabinets as well. We've got like some just miscellaneous boxes, maybe where they keep recipes or other spare ingredients. We have a bunch of plates. I get rid of a couple because it was a little bit overwhelming. It's a lot of plates. And some other like food storage containers, a spice rack, things like that. I also include the steamer, like the rice steamer. I think I include that from For Rent. And I put the hot pot. So this was actually really odd. So we have a handful of like small countertop appliances at this point. If you have various packs, right? We've got like the waffle maker, for example, from the Home Chef Hustle stuff pack. God, I stumbled over that one. I was like, it's a kit. It's not. But we have like smaller appliances that in my head would have slotted really nicely on the shelves of these countertops. The only small appliance that would slot there was the hot pot that came with Snowy Escape. I thought that was actually so odd. I wanted to store the rice cooker from For Rent, which maybe that would have been a bit of a stretch, but I tried to like slot the waffle maker, for example, to try to get some of those appliances that your Sims could like put in their inventory or quote unquote put away until they need to use them. Nothing else would slot except for that hot pot. So I was kind of disappointed in that, but I did add a hot pot. I also added one of the kettles. I believe it was from For Rent because it was this really nice, vibrant red color. I'm warning you now, the red is going to feel overwhelming in the screenshots in comparison to this footage. I'm trying to be proactive. I'm trying to let y'all know it's going to be jarring. Okay, it is. It was jarring for me. And when I first did it, I was like, oh my God, do I even like this build? What did I do? This is awful. And then I had to, like, I let my eyes adjust a little bit and I sat back and I thought, no, actually it's really pretty. It's so weird how very minor changes, in my opinion, like it's just a preset, but that minor change completely altered the way that I saw a build. So it made me remember what it was like as well before I knew that Reshade or GShade even existed. For those of you who don't know, when I first started playing The Sims, I was playing on an iMac that I used to have. And when you're on a Mac, to my knowledge, you can't use either of those programs. So I was just playing with the in-game colors. And when I started seeing content on YouTube and I started to kind of really get into the community space a bit more, and I was like, why do people's games look so colorful and beautiful? This is wild. And it wasn't until maybe a year into doing YouTube, that could be a little bit off, but maybe a year into doing YouTube that I even started using Reshade. I don't know, it could have been a shorter amount of time, but it's wild how big of a difference it can make in how you perceive a build and maybe the interior decorating and stuff like that. So it was a good reminder, I think, because I'm just so used to having GShade in my game and of course playing with a particular preset, but it was a nice reminder that there are folks who don't use those programs and these builds might look completely different to them. I don't know. It was just something to think about. But as you can see, we decorated the living room as I blabbed on forever repetitively. And I know these couches hate to see me coming, but I used them. I love these couches. And I loved sizing up this rug from City Living. It almost looks like this has like cherry blossoms on it. I thought it was super complimentary to not only the aesthetic of the build, but also, even though it's a bit more pink than red, it's still tied into that a little bit. And then I also use these base game cushions on the couches in a nice like sage green. I feel like with a lot of these wood tones from the stuff from Snowy Escape, green is just such a nice color to go with all of it. Like I love using green accents. And now we're working on the bathroom. So in traditional Japanese homes, the area in which you use the toilet and the area in which you shower are typically separated. I don't always get to do that. And I completely spaced on if you would enter into the room with the toilet first or the bathtub or shower. So I did that off camera though, because honestly, I had to do some finagling with the platforming. It was a pain in my butt. But those rooms are separated, which was kind of nice. And then here, I guess we'll say like a hallway or kind of a landing area. I do add a desk and a bookcase with a laptop and just some lighting and some plants and things like that. I didn't clutter it up too much, but this was like the perfect spot for a desk. And I wasn't decorating it for any particular job or any particular sim or anything. I just wanted there to be more so a family computer, but now that I'm thinking about it, since I used a laptop, maybe it's one of the parents, maybe they often take some work home with them and they have to take their laptop home with them to do that and they take it into the office and things, but they typically just work here. Maybe it doesn't happen often enough that they feel like they need an office space, but they've kind of utilized that desk and turned it into their own. And you know what? Maybe their kid has like a video game installed on it or something. I don't know. It seemed like a fun thought. And now here is going to be, we'll say the back entrance. Is that? I don't know. But these little entrance areas are called genkans, and they are typically like tiled or stone or something like that. They're usually sunken compared to the rest of the house. So I did play around with platforming again. And it is a place for you to take off your shoes and like hang up your coat and whatnot before you enter the rest of the home. And I did put up those signs in both the front entrance and the back to take off your shoes. So I was anticipating that Sims would be taking off their shoes when they come into this house and putting them back on when they leave. But here is going to be the upstairs. We're working on the kids' room first. And another thing that I constantly forget to try to replicate when I do Japanese builds is the fact that in traditional Japanese homes, from what I recall in my research, is they're often, what are they called? Like futon beds. And they're often just sat on the floor. Now, what you would see in a lot of traditional Japanese homes, from what I was reading, not so much now, but tatami mats would be in pretty much every room but the kitchen, bathroom, and one other room that I can't recall. But you'd find them very often in bedrooms, in maybe the dining room, living room, things like that. And I forgot that we got a floor pattern for a tatami mat with Snowy Escape, so I didn't include it in this build because I didn't realize it until I'd already completed it, but I do have another, I think I'm just going to call it like a large Japanese home. I do have another really, a decent sized build in Mount Como coming as well. And I did use the tatami mats in the bedrooms and the living room to try to pay homage to more of those traditional elements in Japanese homes as well. You know, to the best of my ability, of course, with using items in The Sims and trying to replicate some of those things, because it was kind of a bummer. We didn't get a futon bed or anything with Snowy Escape. We got beds with frames, which, again, I do use in this build in particular. But this is the kids' room. I talked all the way through it. I did use that cot from the little campers kit, and I did lower it using the tool mod into the platform that I made. When I play tested it, my sim was able to get into that bed, get up on the platform, no problem. However, I will say, if you do encounter an issue, it's likely because the bed is lowered into the platform ever so slightly using tool, and I would just recommend grabbing the bed and placing it on top of the platform, and it should work just fine. But I was trying to replicate that thought of it being more of a futon bed. And this room is also very plainly decorated. It was kind of an odd shape, and I did intentionally, or I should say knowingly, block the Sim's ability to get to the dresser. So keep that in mind as well. And then I play with a platform again for the parents' room, and I was going to use this double bed from Eco Lifestyle because it looks like a futon bed, but it's a little bit beat up, and the stats associated with it, it's like really bad for your Sim's comfort. Like they're gonna wake up with like an achy back and stuff. And I was like, you know what? It's not worth it. So I just didn't do it. I added this bed from Seasons, which I thought was really nice. I really love this bed. And then I just added a couple of end tables here, these really small, appropriately sized ones actually from Snowy Escape, that all the other end tables should strive to be size-wise because all the other end tables are huge. And then I added a dresser, we have a mirror, we do have these little side tables here as well, and then a yoga mat because why not? I figured at least one of these Sims, maybe they do a yoga routine the second they wake up in the morning, and then they do it right before bed as well, so they're all relaxed and limber for the day or for sleep. I also added an easel out here on the balcony with a chair and a little planter pot, and then we do have more planter pots out front, which I didn't even mention as I was talking through the front of the build. And then we also have the line of laundry, because that was something else I remembered, is that a lot of Japanese homes, they might have washing machines, but they won't necessarily have dryers. They will have the clothesline, perhaps outside. So I did add an outside clothesline here. And then we have the washer in the bathroom inside on the first floor, which was kind of nice. I actually loved that. I loved the idea of that level of simplicity and maybe slower pace to everything. And then I just add a picnic table and a grill, and that's pretty much it for this build. So I cannot wait to hear your thoughts on both the build and the GShade preset. And I will catch you next time I post a video, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.